Continuing now with chapter 14. Yes, verse 12. Those who conduct themselves with their intellects shining forth with reason become the recipients of its most liberal gifts. Lack of reason is like the thorny and sour karanja plant, sprouting forth with blossoms of sorrow, growing in the lakes of ignorant minds in order to shut out their hopes and prospects. This is a very important statement. The use of the intellect is extremely important to achieve moksha. In fact, use of the intellect is the key. Even when we're performing meditation, dharana, we must use the intellect to distinguish between the mantra and the gap between thinking the mantra. We have to use the intellect in dhyan when we are observing the mind thinking the mantra, because the intellect in that state of the silent witness is very powerful. It is the intellect of the absolute. The intellect we use in our conscious thinking mind is just a reflection of the real intellect in the absolute. Later on, as we continue, we're going to see why the intellect is so important. Verse 14. O Raghava, shake off the lethargy caused by your neglect of reasoning. Intellect, defining intellect. Intellect is that faculty of the mind used for discrimination, noticing the difference between two things. This torpor darkens your vision, as if by the black eyeliner delirium powder, and maddens your mind, as if by the drunkenness of wine. The man of right judgment is not liable to fall into the long and dangerous maze of error, but remains as a blaze of light amidst the gloom of ignorance. Man of right judgment. The reasoning faculties shine like a bed of lotuses in the limpid lake of the mind. Whoever has such a reasoning mind exalts his head as high as the Himalayan heights. A man having a dull mind and incapable of reasoning with the sharpness of a flash of lightning is like a child who sees false apparitions about him. Ram, you must shun and keep base, unreasonable men at a distance. They grow as plump as a sugar cane to cause sorrow. They resemble the spring season that grows fresh weeds of evil. Whatever misdeeds, misconducts, and mishaps present themselves to man, they all result from his lack of the light of reason. They lay hold of him like ghosts appearing in the dark. O support of Raghu's race, shun the unreasonable man at a distance. He is like a solitary wild tree that comes to no good use. A mind filled with reason and devoid of the impatience that attends worldly desires feels the light of transcendent quietism, shining in the soul with the full luster of the moon. When the light of reason shines in any person, it imparts the coolness and good grace of moonbeams to all things around you. So we're being exhorted by Vasishtha to find the light of reason. This is the intellect of the silent witness. We become accustomed to using the dull bludgeon of the intellect of the conscious thinking mind. We cannot accomplish anything with that reflection, not even real intellect. We must connect with the real intellect, the light of reason, which exists only in the silent witness. Remember, we're talking about the gatekeepers to moksha, and intellect, reason, is one of them. Reasoning serves to destroy the false apparitions of errors, which present themselves to the minds of children like ghosts in the night sky. All things in the world appear charming, but they are only unrealities. They are like clods of earth that are broken by the hammering snow of reason. Men torment themselves with the false imagination of their own minds. Only reason can drive away this deeply rooted apparition from the mind. Know that the fruit of the high tree of reason is the even, unobstructed, interminable, and independent happiness called perfect detachment, Kaivalya. So this is why we are engaging our intellect, because ultimately we will distinguish between what is self and what is not self. And everything that is not self, we will be able to see is illusion. Through reason and its evident influence on the deprivation of physical gratification, there arises an unshakable and exalted disinterestedness in the mind, like the cooling beams of the moon. When a saint has reached his perfection by means of the elixir of judgment seated in his mind, he neither desires for more nor leaves what he has. A mind relying on that state of equanimity and perceiving the clear light has neither its fall nor elevation, but enjoys its inward expansion like that of vacuum forever. One unconcerned with the world neither gives nor receives anything, nor feels himself elated or depressed at any event, but views everything as an indifferent spectator. He is neither numbingly cold, nor does he dwell on anything internally or externally. He is not acting or immersed in activity. He slights the loss of anything and lives content with what he has. He is neither depressed nor elevated, but remains as full as the sea. It is in this manner that the high aspiring great souls who are yogis conduct themselves in this world with their fullness of joy and living as liberated in this life. These saintly sages, having lived as long as they like, abandon it at last and gain their perfect detachment and eternal unity. By volume. A wise man should intently consider within who he is, who he belongs to, what is his family, by whom he is surrounded, and think on the remedy of this worldliness. It is a king, O Ram, who well knows the difficult and doubtful state of the business, and his success or failure depends solely on his right judgment and on nothing else. It is the sayings and information established by the Vedas and the Vedanta that form the grounds of our evidence, and these are to be ascertained by our reason and by the help of a lamp in the gloom of night. The bright eyesight of reason, even when it has to view things at a distance, is neither blinded by darkness nor dimmed by the full blaze of daylight. He who is blind to reason is like one born blind. A demented man is an object of universal pity, but a man with a reasoning soul is said to be possessed of divine eyesight and becomes victorious in all things. The miraculous power of reason is acknowledged to be a divine attribute and an instrument to highest joy. Therefore, it is not to be lost sight of even for a moment. A man graced by reason is loved even by the great, just as the delicious and ripe mango fruit is delicious to all. Men, with their minds illumined by the light of reason, are like travelers acquainted with their way. They are not liable to pitfalls of constant danger and misery. Now remember, this light of reason that's being talked about here is not the dull reason of the conscious thinking mind. This is the intellect, the reasoning faculty of the silent witness. We're beginning to delve into the nature of the silent witness. Very important information. Neither a sick man nor one beset by 100 evils wails as bitterly as an ignorant man whose soul is deprived of reason. Rather leap like a frog in mud or creep like a worm in the dirt, or lie like a snake in a dark hole, or crawl on the ground, then walk like a man devoid of reason. Therefore get rid of unreasonableness, which is the home of all your dangers, is condemned by the wise, and is the end of all your disasters. Great men must always be in full possession of their reasoning, because those unsupported by their reason are liable to fall into the pits of darkness. Let everyone keep his soul under the control of his own reason, and by this means deliver the deer of his mind from falling into the mirage of this world. It is the province of reasoning to consider logically that it is one's own self that the evil known as worldliness at its rise. Worldliness, what is that? Worldliness is being lost in the illusion of the three-dimensional world, oblivious to the fact that one is lost in an illusion. The thick mist of error is only for the continued misery of man, and it prevails on the stormy minds of those who are demented by the loss of reason. Even the wise, who hold fast to the truth and forsake all untruth in this world, are unable to discern their true nature without the aid of reason. This is an important point. And this is the reason we need our reason, the reason for the intellect. It is to discern one's true nature. This is the ultimate use of the intellect. Eventually, we become accustomed to using the intellect to determine what is self and what is not self. And as we do this, it reinforces the reality that only self exists. Not self is illusion. It is by means of reason that one comes to the knowledge of truth, and by means of truth that he gets peace of mind. And it is tranquility of mind that dispels the misery of men. Now, Rob, take delight in such acts as may be productive of utility to the world, and whereby you may attain to perfection. Weigh all things with the clear eye of reason, which will make you blessed forever. Chapter 15, on contentment. Vasishtha continued, contentment, the third gatekeeper, is the chief good. Contentment is called true enjoyment. and the contented man, O destroyer of enemies, gets the best repose. Those who are happy with their prosperity of contentment and possess the calm repose of their souls are like holy saints. They think a kingdom is no better than a bit of rotten straw. And why is that? Once we see everything that is not self as illusion, can there be one aspect of illusion that's better than another aspect of illusion? All illusion. Contentment is pure acceptance. Acceptance that all that is not self is illusion. It's lack of acceptance that causes us to value one thing, one piece of the illusion, as greater than another piece. And something that we value, we hold on to, which is the basis of greed. So contentment is the realization, the knowledge that all that is not self is illusion, and nothing in not self has any value. And anything seen to have value in not self is a signal that it is overlying a karmic trace. An individual karmic trace is the only thing that can cause an individual to value something that is valueless. Verse 3, whoever remains a contented mind amidst all the affairs of the world is never disturbed or dejected in adverse circumstances. Hold on. The saints who are satisfied with the ambrosial drink of contentment consider their greatest wealth and enjoyments to be only poison. Even the waves of a liquid nectar fail to afford that pleasure which the sweetest taste of contentment, the healer of all evils, gives to its owner. Abandonment of unfruitful desires and calmness in those desires that are obtained, feeling no pain and having no sense of pleasure, constitute what is called contentment here below. Until the mind can enjoy contentment, rising of itself spontaneously in the soul, troubles will continue to grow like briars and brambles in a bog. The mind cooled by calm contentment and purified by the light of philosophy is always in its full bloom like a lotus under sunbeams. Now there's frequent use of the lotus symbolism. Why is that? The lotus is an important geometric structure. It is the foundation of the creator of the universe. He is said to be seated on a lotus. The So what is this lotus? It's called the Sri Chakra. Every time you see lotus, think of this fundamental archetype, energy, frequency, form of anything that is manifest from pure consciousness. It's illusion, true, but it is the structure of illusion. An ungoverned mind, subject to desires and devoid of contentment, does not receive the light of knowledge. Like a soiled mirror, it takes no reflection of the face. A man whose mind is always bright with the sunshine of contentment does not shrivel like a lotus in the dark night of ignorance. A man devoid of diseases and anxieties, whose mind is content, though he be thoroughly poor, enjoys the happiness of a supreme ruler. He is called contented, who does not long after what he does not possess, who enjoys what he has in its right manner, and who is graceful in his manners. There is a beauty that shines in the face of one whose mind has the satisfaction of contentment. His face has a fullness of magnanimity and a purity of thought, like that of the milky ocean. Let a man rely on his manly efforts and entertain self-control within himself, to abandon his craving for things. He whose mind is full with the ambrosia of contentment and a calm and cool understanding acquires a perpetual composure within himself, like cooling moonbeams. All great fortunes wait upon him whose mind is strengthened by contentment, as if they were servants attending a king. One, remaining content and composed in himself, quells all his anxieties and cares, like the rains settle the dust of the earth. Ram, a man shines by the contentment of his mind and the purity of his conduct, like the cooling and spotless moon when she is full. No one receives so much delight from his accumulation of wealth as he derives from the sight of the beautiful, placid countenance of a contented person. Know, O delight of Raghu's race, that the gods and the sages honor most those best of men who are decorated with the grace of equanimity. Chapter 16, on the company of the virtuous and good conduct. Vashishta resumed, saying, Know, O highly intelligent Ram, that the company of the virtuous, the fourth gatekeeper, is everywhere of the greatest benefit to men, for their crossing over the ocean of the world, samsara. It is the tree of virtuous company, satsang, that produces the fresh blossom of discrimination, which, being cherished by men with great soul, yields its fruit of prosperity. The society of the learned makes solitude appear as company, and the evil of death as good as a festivity, and converts a difficulty to ease. And why is this? This company of those who are conducting satsang. Satsang is literally the discussion of that which is self and that which is illusion. The discussion of the divine karmic traces and that which is transcendental to the divine karmic traces. By putting one's attention on that aspect, it is highly purifying and balancing to all individual karmic traces. Verse 4, the society of the virtuous wards off all disasters, which, like the frost, invade the lotus beds of our hearts. The society of the virtuous baffles the icy breath of ignorance. Know that the society of the virtuous is the best way to improve understanding. Destroy the tree of ignorance and remove all our mental diseases. And why is that? Because all lack of understanding, all ignorance, all problems in the mind arise from individual karmic traces, and in particular from imperfect knowledge constructs. And it is the study of the Vedic literature that purifies and balances the karmic traces in the form of knowledge construct. It is the only way to balance the karmic traces that are hiding the light of divine karmic traces and revealing the light behind divine karmic traces, which is known as Param Jyoti, or Krishna's effulgence. Individual karmic traces have no light of their own. They are just dull, dead logs. Divine karmic traces are animated and glow with the radiance of the effulgence of Krishna, Param Jyoti. Param Jyoti is that light of reason. The society of the virtuous produces the light of reason, which is as charmingly fair as a cluster of flowers after being washed by rainwater. The influence of virtuous company teaches us the best way of living. which is never impaired or obstructed by anything, and is ever full in itself. Let no man ever keep himself from the association of the virtuous, even though he is involved in utmost distress and cast in irremediable circumstances. The society of the virtuous lends a light to the right path. It destroys a man's internal darkness by the rays of the sun of knowledge. Whoever has bathed in the cold, clear stream of good company does not need the merit derived from acts of charity, pilgrimage, austerity, or sacrifice. Of what use is austerity or pilgrimage to one who has the society of virtuous men and whose life is free from passions, sins, doubts, and knots of scruples in the heart? Blessed are the peaceful in their minds, whose people regard with as much devotion as poor men dote fondly upon gems and jewels. An intelligent mind, with its gracefulness derived from good company, always shines like the goddess of riches in the company of fairy nymph. Therefore, that blessed man who never abstains from the company of the holy is renowned as having attained the crown of clear understanding. Hence, all uncompromising believers, holy men, and those who are revered by people are to be served by all means for crossing over the ocean of the world. The company of the saints is like rainwater that extinguishes the flames of hell. Surely those who neglect the company of the saints serve as dry fuel to hellfire. The medicine of holy association serves to allay entirely all the afflictions consequent to poverty and death and all tribulations of worldly affairs. Contentment, society of the virtuous, the practice of reasoning and remaining undisturbed comprise the means for mankind to cross over the ocean of the world. Contentment is reckoned to be the best gain. Good company, the right course, reasoning the true knowledge, and remaining undisturbed, the highest bliss. These are the four surest means to break off the shackles of the world. And whoever is practiced in these has surely passed over the false waters of terrestrial sea. Learn, O best of the intelligent, that the practice of any one of these pure virtues leads to a habit of all four. Every one of these separately is a leader to the others. Therefore, apply yourself diligently to one of these for your success in getting them all. Association with the good contentment, right reasoning, and good judgment, joined with peace and tranquility, serve as cargo ships in the ocean of the world. All prosperity attends on him who is possessed of reason, contentment, peacefulness, and the habit of keeping good company, like the fruit of the wish-fulfilling kalpa tree. The man possessed of reasoning, contentment, tranquility, and a proclivity to keep good company is attended by every grace, as all the digits unite in the full moon. The happy mind, filled with contentment, quietness, reasoning power, and a tendency towards good company, meets with prosperity and success, much like kings, guided by good ministers. Therefore, O delight of Raghu's race, bravely govern your mind and always diligently practice some one of these virtues. Exert your best courage to subdue your elephantine mind. Know that until you have mastered one of these cardinal virtues, you can make no progress. It must be, O Ram, that you must set your heart to work on the exertion of your courage and the gnashing of your teeth in order to succeed in meritorious acts, deeds. For whether you be a god, yaksha, nature spirit, man or tree, you cannot, O long-armed Ram, have a better course until you master one of these qualities. As soon as one of these virtues is strengthened and made fruitful in you, it will serve to weaken this force of the faults of your uncontrollable mind. The cultivation of virtues leads to their full growth, and by the suppression of vice, but the fostering of vice will lead to the increase of vice and suppression of good qualities. The mind is a wilderness of errors in which the stream of our desires flows with full force between its two banks of good and evil, where we hold our stand. It bears away and throws a man on the bank which he strives to reach by his own efforts. Therefore, O Ram, do as you like to reach either shore, now with all the exertion of your manly force. Try by degrees to turn the course of your desires toward the happy shore in the forest of your mind. Know, O high-minded Ram, that one's own disposition is like a rapid current that must not be permitted to bear him away to the perilous coast. Again, we're reminded of the use of the senses and the intellect in the silent witness to keep us from straying off into a dead-end tunnel in our tunnel that we have bored in the mountain ranges of karma, so that we will definitely reach the other shore. The light of Krishna, the Param Jyoti, that exists behind the divine karmic traces.